In this video, we'll talk about setting your campaign budget. We'll talk about the meaning and implications of that budget and how it kind of works, and how you should set it up and how you should scale it, and what you should start with and how you should grow it. Right? So lots of things. Let's jump first to Ads Manager. So when you create a campaign and you choose your objective, let's say in this case I will choose the most standard objective, which would be the conversions objectives. Then I need to name my campaign and so on, but I don't want to do that right now. And I will end up at the campaign settings. Now here you can see we have things like buying type and campaign objective and so on, but we don't have a budget, right? We can say that we want a campaign budget optimization, and then and only then we'll be able to set the budget at the campaign level. But campaign budget optimization is an advanced feature, and we are going to talk about it a little bit later. So for now, we are going to forget it and see that if we are just going to use the standard campaign type, we are going to be setting our budgets at the ad set level, where, for example, if I set my campaign to conversions, I would choose which campaign I want to optimize, which in this case would be the pixel, the purchase, and then I would set my budget over here at the ad set level if I'm not using campaign budget optimization, that is. And I have two options. I either have a daily budget, which is what we are going to be using most of the time, and lifetime budget. Let's explain lifetime budget first because it's simpler. Lifetime budget means start my campaign at this date, end it at a specific date. You can say I want to end it at, let's say if I start it today, or let's say I want to start it on the 1st of September, and then I want it to end on the 1st of November, right? Or I'm starting it at the 1st of October, and then I want it to end at the 1st of November. That means that I want Facebook to spend this budget over this time period. So that's going to mean something like $10.50 per day, and that's what Facebook's going to try and spend. But that doesn't mean that things are going to work in that specific way. It kind of depends on your audience a little bit, because if you have a very large audience and your objective is reach, for example, it will just spend it very quickly, and you will not it won't work exactly like that. Now, Facebook will try to pace that budget, but not necessarily. Now, if you do, however, choose a shorter period, let's say I want to advertise from, let's make a cool example. I want to make a Black Friday campaign. So first of all, your end date cannot be after your start date. So let's say that Black Friday is the 27th, and I don't want my campaign to end on the 27th. I want it to end on 28th. And I want it to start, however, on let's say on Saturday the 22nd. Now, during those days, I want to spend, let's say, $35,000. In this case, Facebook is going to try and spend all of that money in these dates. So it's very good for short promotions, and especially if you want to spend a large amount of money over a short period of time. That's when you use a lifetime budget. You also use it basically use it for timed promotions, not for long-term campaigns that should be running over and over again in time. And the Downside of that is that if you set too large of a budget and you have a small audience, so let's just narrow down that audience a little bit and say I want people who are from 18 to let's say 19. That will narrow down my audience from 3 million to 140,000 people, and I might not be able to spend all that budget because of competition. However, it might also be that you just show these ads to the same people many times, which you don't know if you want to do. So you should be considering your budget relative to your audience. That's one thing. Now, moving on to the daily budgets. Daily budgets pretty much mean that you will spend an average of that amount per day, but as that says, actual amount spent per day may vary. And if you go here to that link to learn more, you will see that it will basically tell you something similar to what we saw in the Google situation, where they're going to spend that as your daily budget average, and they'll try to get you roughly your daily budget's worth of the results for you, and it will be optimized every day. However, there might be certain days that are better opportunities than others, they say, to get you more of that results, and on those days they might spend up to 25% over your daily budget. So they're not like Google, and they're not going to spend 200% on that, and that is something for you to consider, because let's say that your business works in a specific way and you make most of your sales on the weekend. Then if you set a low daily budget, you're gonna get nothing on Monday, nothing on Tuesday, nothing on Wednesday, maybe a few sales on Thursday and Friday, and then over the weekend you're going to get less sales than you could because of that seasonality. And unfortunately, Facebook is pretty bad at ad scheduling. As you can see, scheduling is only available with lifetime budgets. So that's not, you can't say I want to run my campaign continuously, but I want to advertise only on the weekends. Now that's just Facebook being bad. That's literally it. As you saw during the Google Ads course, Google have a much better control over ad scheduling. That's not available in Facebook, and it's just Facebook's fault. And there's no fixing it, no better thing. You can also remove the end date if you are using a daily budget, which you most of the time should be doing that, because that's the type of campaign that you want to run continuously, and that's what we're going to be doing most of the time. And daily budget means that you could spend up to that amount multiplied by roughly 30, and you should also consider that it might be, if your campaign gets good results and gets lots of conversions, it might get up to 25% higher per month. Now, that's very unlikely, but it sometimes can happen. So let's now move on to a specific document that I created for you to demonstrate how ad budget works. So first of all, you set a budget of, let's say, $10 per day. That would mean that your ad spend is roughly 30. Now, it might be 300, roughly 300. It might be 350 in reality, if Facebook gets the results you want. And here again, the campaign objectives become very important, because if your campaign is rich and you get amazing results, they say, you know what can happen. Now, this doesn't happen often, but it is sometimes a potential results, and it can happen like maybe the first month, but then over time it's going to get optimized and kind of get to roughly 300. Or this times this amount, your daily budget times the number of days in the month, and so on. Now, conversions, in this case, now I want to talk about starting budgets and scaling budgets. So if your starting budget is $10 and you spend, your monthly ad spend would be, let's say, $300, and let's say you get 30 conversions. That would mean that your cost per acquisition, or cost per, let's say my conversion is purchase, your cost per acquisition is $10. That would mean that your cost per purchase is also $10, and let's say the price of the product that we're selling is $50. It costs us 15. That's the production cost, let's say, and we get a margin of 35. Our revenue would be $1,500 because we sold 30 products times $50. That's $1,500. Our return on ad spend would be 5. That would mean that we would get 5 times our ad spend, and 300 multiplied by 1,500. As you can see the formula here, we have C2, which is our conversions, multiplied by the price is our revenue, and then our return on ad spend is our revenue divided by the spend, which in this case is 5. It can be a negative number as well. So let's, for example, show you what would happen if our product cost us 16. Then our return on ad spend would be 1.6. And if our cost was 1 and our product price was 2, then you would see that it becomes less than 1, meaning that we're losing money, right? We're getting back 20% of the money that we invested. As you can see, in this case, the revenue is 60, right? So let's get back to normal. And our return on ad spend is 5, and our profit is 750. How do we calculate that? That would be the margin multiplied by the number of conversions to get our total margin. Out of that, we take out the ad spend, and then we get with a profit. Now, this is an example of a campaign, and sometimes you can have a positive return on ad spend but a negative profit, right? So if your product that didn't cost you 15 but cost you 45, then you would have the same return on ad spend and the same revenue but a negative profit because your ad spend is more than your margin, and you end up with a negative profit, right? So you should be careful about that, because this column specifically is not included in the Facebook columns, and you can't see it in the reports. So you should know it basically by heart. Now, what would happen if we were to increase that budget twice? So let's say we increase it from 200 to from $10 to $20 a day. That would double the budget. So we would start spending roughly $600, but the expectation would be to get 60 conversions. The price is not going to change, but we would expect to get 60 conversions. In reality, what happens due to diminishing returns, exhausting audiences, and so on, that's not really the case all the time. And sometimes we're going to have to adjust the audience, either increase the size of the audience or narrow it down or do something, optimize the campaign. And we're going to be studying a lot about optimizing campaigns. But what's going to happen in reality is you're probably going to get 45 sales. And then you will see that you increase double the amount of spend, but your conversions don't increase double that, and your CPA is actually increasing, and you do make more profit, but that's not really double. Now let's repeat that process again so that you can see the problem. And now let's say we are going to get maybe maybe let's say 55 conversions, and you will see that our CPA has increased further. We still make better profit. Repeat that again. And let's say this time we get, let's say, 62 conversions. We still make more profit, but our sorry, we didn't increase the budget, so we need to increase that. And you can see that our profit over here is already lower than before because of the increasing CPA. So this is naturally what happens, and you should be careful. And that's why several things happen. First of all, we tend to increase budgets gradually. We don't double, quadruple them, because $10 to 20 is fine, but 100 to 200 is not fine, right? Or 1,000 to 2,000. That's not a gradual enough increase, right? So if you were going with a bigger budget in the very beginning and you get good results and you're profitable, try increasing it by 20%, 30%. If your budget is small, you can increase like 50, 100%. But then once it gets bigger, you should start gradually lowering the percentage of increase of your budget, because this is going to happen. And as you can see, this case, we are spending $1,200 and we get $970 of profit. And here we're spending half that and we get more profit. So we should be careful. Now, in this situation, we're good. We're fine. This is better, right? The situation number 3 is better because we're making more money, more profit. We get more sales, more customers, more opportunities to retarget, and so on. And if your lifetime value is greater and you have very good retention, maybe that would be the best case for you, and your profit would actually be different, but that's another situation for later. So what I want you to get from this is that first, you should start with a low budget to start to see how things work. Then if they start working, you should gradually increase that budget, but you should be careful to monitor the profit as well, and monitor the CPA primarily and the return on ad spend secondarily, to see, and of course the number of conversions, to see how much profit you're making. And once this situation happens, this means that it's time for you to go to lower the budget back to normal, increase the efficiency of the campaign. And so when that campaign gets to maybe, let's say, 65 conversions, then you would be making lots more profit. And then that would mean that when you get here, you wouldn't get 65, but maybe you would get 71. And in that case, that's not good enough. But then you would go back again and optimize a little bit. And then that campaign would get maybe 78 conversions. And, well, let's just go with something like 90 to just show the better example. And now things have improved. But generally, the CPA is not going to be lower over here. So let's, maybe 90 would be unrealistic, and we would go with something like 84. Yeah, so still increasing the CPA, but increasing the profit at the same time. And that's why sometimes it's very important for you to have a big enough margin, so that with increasing CPAs, you can get a larger share of the market. And that's pretty much everything that you need to know for now for budgets. And of course, we'll be discussing them time and time again once we start creating campaigns. And it's time for us to move on to the next video.